chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You hear with some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you. From national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Well, good evening, and welcome back to another episode of Sabrina Speaks. Yes, the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. I am your host, Sabrina. Happy Wednesday, everyone. I know. Yesterday was a glitch. I ate something for lunch and I didn't want to go MIA in the middle of a live stream. So yeah, that's what happened. But who was going to do that at the beginning of a podcast? So unforeseen circumstances, but I'm well. I'm back, thank God, and I am in fit form. It has. I know I had a number of you worried, but all is well. All is well. We pivoted very quickly, and I'm rebound, and I'm right back here again with you for another inspiring and very informative show here. We have a guest that is back studio that will be joining us, and I know you saw the promo from yesterday, and I'm excited to get into this conversation. But again, if you're loving, which I know based on all the love that was shown there and all the concern messages that I received, I'm good, thank God. You're loving this content shared in this space. Please like, share, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Again, we're streaming live on all CMR, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram platforms. And you can also follow me on YouTube at Sabrina Speaks, the number 12, and Facebook as well, Sabrina Turner Community Activist. But yes, and thank you to all of the new followers. I'm seeing you. Thank you so much. And subscribers, because this space is yours and we love you lots. 936-8255 on the bottom of the screen is the number to call to join in on this discussion if you so choose. But I think the information is going to be so informative that you're more than likely to be inclined to listen. And then we can, this is all participatory, but I think there's so much going to be packed into this episode today. And I'm so happy for our guest, Miss Joy Basdeo, who will be joining me. Pretty much, I threw in another title, even though we're discussing the Marriage Act with Miss Joy. The little funny side of me, or that other side, that personality came out. It says, when I do becomes I'm here. Yes. Let that sink in. When I do becomes I'm here. That can be used in many forms. But yes, the future of marriage in the Cayman Islands and the Marriage Act, this conversation will be definitely delving into with Miss Joy Basdeo. But let's see who's here with us. Connie, thank you so much for your concern. It is pleasure to be back. Yes, it's a pleasure to be back here. Yes, you know why you're laughing. You know. But yeah, that way I get about eating shrimp. Yes. Hi, Shaka Zulu. You a word now? Yeah, I know you love me deep down. You love me. Yes, I love you too. But yes, I'm back. And, I got to do this because my good friend and definitely supporter here, Let's do belated birthday public shout outs to Miss Joyce Ann, who celebrated her birthday yesterday. And I felt so bad that I wasn't able to do that on today, but she understands definitely. And this woman, has stood by me. She has a heart of gold. And for all of those who know this lady, knows exactly what I'm speaking about. And I am so honored to have her in my life. But I'm hoping that she's enjoying her birthday, and I wish her many, many more, many, many more. And I saw all of the persons that celebrated her with me as well in the Sabrina Speaks family page right there. So yeah, belated birthday shout outs to Miss Joyce Ann. Yeah, wish her many, many more. So we are going to definitely, as I said, delve in as you all build up right here. Yeah, I know Shaka Zulu, you confessing. No, you brute. I felt it though. I felt it. I love you too. Before we go into the conversation, today I'm going to share this. This is a little bit distracting here. I'm going to share this because people may see this on social media. And I think that we need to recognize the great works that we're doing with all of our people over there at MRCU. But today is a huge milestone for the works that's going on to combat mosquitoes and borne viruses here in our islands. And the MRCU is recognizing the science that revealed how mosquitoes spread disease around by Sir Ronald Ross in 1897. Yeah, he discovered that mosquitoes transmitted malaria and the ongoing work to protect our islands. So for over 60 years, MRCU, that we know it as, that's Mosquito Research and Control Unit, has safeguarded our very own islands, and established back in 1960s and early 60s under etymologist Marco Gigololi of MRCU. He helped pioneer modern mosquito control here in the Cayman Islands, and MRCU continues to follow an integrated, data-driven, and environmentally sensitive program to this day. And MRCU carries out continuous surveillance. You will see these young men out on the road looking for water samples, and they're doing surveillance and also mapping, larva source management, and they're, carefully timed, targeted treatments, be it underground and by air when necessary or if the weather is conducive for them to do that. And that is aiming to keep mosquitoes population as low as possible while minimizing the impacts on beneficial species. So there are tips, and I'm hoping that maybe one day we can delve more into this conversation right here so you can understand how you can also not only help yourselves, but help us on a national level, and giving tips on how to toss outstanding water, keep gutters clean and that sort of stuff, drains cleared as well, and cover rain barrels and water containers. These are little things that you can do, and check and repair your screen so that you keep those pesky bugs out, and report trouble spots to their team. But again, their Facebook page is full of information. I'm hoping that they can come on this space very soon so that we can also delve into how we can help ourselves. It's that time of the year. I'm quite sure you're out there walking your dogs or you're exercising yourself, and how to keep safe. But there's a lot of work that these guys continuously do, and we want to applaud them for their efforts. But this is a little bit of history. Now you know it. Without further ado, I will bring my guests in studio because I want to hear more from our guests. And let's give virtual clap and welcome to our guest, Miss Joy Basdeo. It is a pleasure to have you here. Good evening.
Good evening, Sabrina. I hope you can hear me.
I
Thank you for asking me to come.
Yes, it is a pleasure to have you here. And it is quite an interesting topic, crucial time, actually. But, it made sense when you're looking at how closely related, and to know more about the Cayman Marriage Act. And as we talk about, evolving as a jurisdiction, updating different legislation and immigration reform, it's not until we started delving into this that you realize that there is some relation. So your work spans many fields. Long in your career, you were also in public service. Current role as you're a wedding celebrant, sorry. And so you, I'm quite sure, have lots of stories under your belt that you can tell us. But not only that, you're working with the current legislation, the Marriage Act. Who best to know it but you? But it is indeed a pleasure to have you here. And I hope that you can share a little bit about your journey and what drew you to officiating marriages, really.
Thanks, Sabrina. Well, that is a story. I have to tell you a little bit about the history of my family because my family have been involved in doing weddings since 1983. It started with my dad, Vernon Jackson, when he was asked by the governor.
Mm-hmm.
This is following the retirement of Mr. Ernest Panton. The older people will remember Mr. Ernest and doing weddings at his office, but when at his house. But when he retired, the governor asked my dad if he would become a marriage officer, and he said yes. And so
Mm-hmm.
my dad was doing weddings at different venues, a lot of them at his home in West Bay. But when the cruise ship industry really started up and cruise ship weddings started, then my mother, who had by that time retired, also
Mm-hmm.
joined him as the first female civil registrar of marriages in 1992. Now, a civil registrar is an ex officio marriage officer under the Marriage Law, Marriage Act. But there's a few more requirements that a civil registrar must have. And one of those is the civil registrar must have an office and they must have a deputy. And
Mm-hmm.
so in 1995, I became my mother's deputy. And I was her deputy until I was offered a full license in 2005 when I retired to become a civil registrar in my own right. So I was doing the figures. I have been doing weddings for the last 30 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yes, I just did that figure 1995 to 2025. And then in 2020, I became the first civil registrar of civil partnerships. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, I do have a lot of experience in both that law and also the
Mm-hmm.
civil partnership law.
Right.
So my mom and dad were doing weddings under a company called Cayman Weddings. And when I retired and I got my own register, I decided I would set up to do cruise weddings because they were working out of West Bay. It was kind of difficult to do cruise weddings. And so I opened my own company called Simpler Weddings. I ran it out of a place which is now the parking lot at Kirk Supermarket. And then
Mm-hmm.
later on, we moved to Burger King, down by Burger King, and
On
so
the
I started
waterfront.
doing weddings on the waterfront. But I started doing weddings, doing cruise weddings, but really my business grew very, very fast. I guess because everybody knew me from my work in education. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was soon doing cruise ship weddings, stayover weddings, and a lot of resident weddings. And then in 2011, my husband, Sam Basdeo, also, joined me in the business where he took over the business end and he does the registration of clients. And
Mm-hmm.
then in 2023, I'm sorry, two of our children became civil registrars of marriage and civil partnerships. I'm telling you that to say that our family is very proud of the fact that we have been a marriage business in the Cayman Islands since 1983 and that we continue to be very active and we hope that we will continue this business through the next generation because
Mm-hmm.
now when I am semi-retired and my daughter
Mm-hmm.
Samantha runs the business with her dad.
Mm-hmm. Now, with that history of 30 years spanning back, you've officiated thousands, I'm sure, of weddings.
Yes, four
What?
4,412.
Wow. You may actually have two sides of the coin blaming you for some of the sham marriages that we have. But hold on, hold that thought, hold that thought.
I'm going to talk about that.
Yeah, hold that thought. What are some of the most common misconceptions or even challenges that couples, especially expatriates and visitors, have about getting married here in the Cayman Islands? We're going to delve into the crooks and crannies of how it even ties in with
Well,
immigration reform, but for the amount of
well,
weddings that you've officiated.
yeah. The first thing is that not only visitors and expatriates, but they don't understand that there's a process to be followed. For
Mm-hmm.
example, we have to do due diligence. There's a waiting period in which others may object. We have a ceremony which has to be done in which certain precise words must be said. The ceremony
Mm-hmm.
must be done before two witnesses, and then they must obtain a legal document after through the government once the marriage officer has registered your wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes people say to me that getting married in Cayman is easy, and I say getting married is simple because we have a good system and we have done the work already for them.
Mm-hmm. Now you would have some people saying it's too easy, and hence the birth of this, because of where it goes. But we're just looking right now because we'll get into the Cayman Islands Marriage Act in the next. But we're all about here speaking frank and honest conversations. In your humble opinion, what is the most significant social and or legal issues facing the Cayman Islands today?
Well, there's no, I mean, I believe that the biggest problem facing Cayman today, in my opinion, are immigration and overdevelopment.
Mm-hmm.
Immigration, because Caymanians feel disenfranchised and disrespected in their own country. There's no doubt about it. We have
Right.
anger building in our communities, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it spills over into daily life. We all see it.
Mm-hmm.
We are seeing the breakdown of the family unit, the high cost of living, and the loss of hope
Mm-hmm.
in our young people.
Mm-hmm.
And the age-old question about overdevelopment is who are we developing for? And this
Four.
remains unanswered. So one of the biggest concerns is that we are seeing the breakdown of the fabric of society because of sheer numbers. We are letting small things pass, manners, enforcement of minor laws, like talking on the phone
Mm.
in your car, litter, all these small things which become big things, and
Mm-hmm.
then big things become anarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So immigration is deeply impacted by marriage, especially sham marriages, fraudulent marriages, which I believe are on the rise. And this
Mm-hmm.
saddens me and worries me
Mm-hmm.
because right now Cayman is not a very good place for Caymanians.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, do you think that that's the responsibility of both parties? Because easy access for getting involved or married for a number of reasons, we see what is being recommended that you can't acquire Caymanian status now, what is being proposed for some 22, 23 years that is being proposed. But yet, that is only those who may enter if and when that becomes law, which goes into this other part of what we want to get into of understanding the current law. So if we just strip that or put that on the side for a little bit, let's dive more into the core of the matter. The Cayman Islands Marriage Act itself in its current form, because we're hearing immigration reform. We're hearing people saying it's too easy to get naturalized. It's too easy to get a Cayman passport. It's too easy for one to move on to status after they get married. And after I get married, they disappear. They go to a different country because they just wanted a travel document. But we don't understand that that's not the only thing that actually allows somebody to actually be here. It starts with the union, especially if you are the spouse of a Caymanian. So can you provide a pretty much straightforward overview of the primary purpose and key provisions of the current Cayman Islands Marriage Act?
Yes, I can do that. But before I do that, I'm going to give you a little bit of history on
Mm-hmm.
our current Marriage Act. Our current Marriage Act started as the marriage law of 1964, 64. And
Mm-hmm.
although it has had 7 cosmetic revisions, it does not fulfill our needs. In
Mm-hmm.
1964, we might have had 10,000 people. Everybody knew everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Announcements for marriage Marriages were made in church and they were posted on the church door for all to see.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we have close to 100,000 people from over 140 countries who live here. Technology has changed our world beyond recognition for people born, let's say, 70 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And our marriage law, which was a good law for many years,
Mm-hmm.
is no longer fit for purpose.
Wow.
So the thing we have to be talking about is modern Cayman and having a law that is going to fit Cayman today. So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm going to go and talk to you about what the marriage law says. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So the core purpose of the marriage law is to provide a legal structure with rights and protections for committed partnerships. In our case, heterosexual partnerships. And these partnerships are also protected under our Constitution and by international human rights. We'll talk
Mm-hmm.
about civil partnerships at another time. But other benefits provided through marriage are found in other laws, such as the immigration law, and you can have the
Mm-hmm.
benefit of that, the succession laws, etc. But the marriage law is central to this, and it must work in conjunction with other laws.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order to be married, a couple must show that they are free in law to marry. That is, they have to provide documents to the marriage officer, who will then conduct due diligence. A document called the Notice of Marriage must be completed and signed by the couple and witnessed by two people who know them who are not related to them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a public notice, also referred to as the banns, and it must be published in a public place for at least 7 consecutive days. Then, if there are no objections, they must have a ceremony in which certain prescribed words are said, and they must have at least two witnesses sign the register before a licensed marriage officer. And such marriage officer must pronounce them husband
Mm-hmm.
and wife. That is not just a custom, it is a legal requirement. So, then the marriage officer will register the wedding, and the document from the government, from the general register, will be available in a day or so.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the legal document that every married couple should get and be able to use during the life of their marriage.
Mm-hmm. That's what is now is called the marriage certificate.
That's right. That's what it's
Okay.
known as.
So, in regards to what you read there in the law about husband and wife, understanding the act specifies that a marriage is a union between a man and a woman. How has the legal definition impacted your work and the lives of couples in the Cayman Islands, especially after the recognition of civil partnerships back in 2020?
Well,
You
really,
read a law.
yeah. It really has not affected our business because all three of our marriage officers are also civil registrars of civil partnerships. That's a
Okay.
whole different licensing. And
Mm-hmm.
I was actually the first one appointed in, I think it was September of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So the process of conducting a civil partnership is very similar to conducting a marriage. It does give same sex couples and heterosexual couples who choose that form of
Mm-hmm.
partnership some rights the same as marriage, but there is no, and this is very important, there is no right of inheritance. If you are in a civil partnership and your partner, because it's not your spouse, and your
Right.
partner dies without having a will, you do not inherit you do not inherit their estate the same way that a wife would inherit her husband's estate or a husband would inherit the wife's estate. And that is a very big difference.
I think that is so important and so different that you need to repeat that because one tend to believe that it's only civil partnership versus union, but I don't think people realize that. So
No,
repeat
people,
that, the difference in between husband and wife, true regular marriage as we knew it,
yeah,
and civil partnership when it comes to inheriting one's
yes,
property, one's estate, should their partner, in this case, not husband or wife, partner under the Civil Partnership Act dies.
that's right. Now, one of the other things is that, and I get this question all the time, if there are a heterosexual couple, a man and a woman doing a civil partnership, the woman does not have the right to the man's name. That's one thing. You
No.
cannot have it, no, you cannot have a civil partnership and then turn around and have a marriage. And that's a big misconception. If you have a civil partnership, the only way you can have a legal marriage afterward, even to the same person, is to get a divorce and then marry them.
But how that makes sense
Yes.
if you,
No, yeah, people don't know that. And that's why I discourage heterosexual couples from having civil partnership, because it does not give them all the rights. It gives them some of the rights, but not all the rights. And getting back to the inheritance thing, if you're in a civil partnership, which is a contract, not a covenant, okay, which is a contract, and one partner dies intestate without a will, the other partner does not inherit their estate under the law.
oh, wow. Wow. That is amazing. And I'm hoping that all of the persons who are actually viewing this podcast will actually understand that, because that's a fact that I don't think a lot of people knew at all. Now, looking at the age of even consent, even for the civil partnership process, what is that? What is the age? Is it still 16 with parental consent, or is
No,
what is
no,
that?
I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's 18.
18 for
I
civil
believe it's
partners.
18. Yeah, I think it's 18. Yeah.
But under the regular marriages, we know it, 16 with parental consent.
16 with parental consent. Yeah. Written
So,
parental consent.
okay. So a minor, as we deem it for this purpose, under 18 would not be able legally to enter into a civil partnership. Okay,
Yes,
that's
that's right.
good.
Yeah.
Now, beyond the legal technicalities, what are, and I know you kind of mentioned it, but I want you to delve down into it for the sake of informing and educating all the persons who will view this podcast. What are the social and cultural expectations of marriage in the Cayman Islands, and how do they either align with or diverge from formal law?
Well, once again, the Marriage Act that we have today is rooted in Caymanian society of 70 years ago. And that is a traditional family unit of husband, wife, and children in the family home. And that is far less common now than it was 70 years ago. The modern family is more likely to be single parent homes, either from divorce or otherwise, or blended families. In fact, to give you a figure from the US in 2025, only 47% of all households in the US in 2025 were found to be headed by husband and wife in a traditional family. And
Wow.
I think it is probably very similar in Cayman.
Okay, yeah, very interesting. As we continue to evolve, so what would be your opinion to those persons who are not realizing that time and evolution has moved on, and what is ingrained in us from a cultural perspective is no longer the rule, that we have to look at, and this is why it's so important that our laws be modernized according to the times. What would be your take on that?
Yes, I agree that our laws need to be modernized. There are still a lot of people that believe in traditional marriage. Thank God, believe in traditional marriage as it is, because marriage really came from the church and from Christian traditions. But there are similarly people who don't feel any connection to the church. For example, when you have a civil marriage with us, right, you don't have to have the vows, you don't have to have the rings, You don't have to have the prayer, but you can, I will give you those things if you ask for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what, as a civil marriage, what you have to have is you have to have you have to say certain words. You have to say in your own words that yes, you want to go through with this marriage, and that there is no reason why you should not be married, and you have to say that in front of at least two witnesses.
Two
So
witnesses.
let me explain that far and above the ceremonies that we do are marriages, because people are still wanting to get married,
Mm-hmm.
but for whatever reason, hopefully, we hope they want to get married for love. But you know, every
Mm-hmm.
marriage is convenient to somebody. Let's face facts, it's convenient for different things. Um, but so traditionally, culturally, yes, marriage, people have a concept of marriage in their mind. And we
Mm-hmm.
fulfill that concept when we do the ceremonies that we do and say the words that we say.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that people don't want to. As I said, they'll tell me no rings, no vows. All they want is the legal requirement. And that is happening in the modern world. Not too much with Caymanians and not very much with Caribbean people.
Now, interesting. Again, culture, maybe what's inculcated in me. Is that, do that raise any red flags that, may actually go into what I was about to ask anyhow? Telltale signs of a marriage or a union that may not be genuine.
Yeah, the biggest red flag is when couples call or text or come in and say, we don't want anything but sign the papers.
Oh, wow. You actually get
Oh,
those
yes.
requests.
Oh, yes, probably every month. They say, we don't want to do anything but sign the papers. And I have to explain to them, well, it doesn't work like that. I'm very sorry. You have to provide certain documents. You have to have a waiting period. You have to have a ceremony. If it's only 2 minutes long, you still have to
Mm-hmm.
have a ceremony. You must say certain words as prescribed by the law, and it must
Mm-hmm.
be done before witnesses. So I
Mm-hmm.
have to explain every day. We have to explain the process, because I feel that there's a tendency with some couples to think marriage is disposable, just like a
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah.
You can throw it away when you're sick of it and get a divorce because that's easy.
Well, it's funny that you said that, because in preparing for this show, which is one thing, in order for it to be informed discussion, I've stumbled across Bermuda, which we all know is British overseas territory, just like us here in the Cayman Islands. And I didn't realize that Bermuda has a no fault divorce to actually expedite the process. Should two parties actually decide, and we're going to go back, right? But when you look at that, and exactly what you said, that people look at committing their lives to each other through marriage.
Some
Yeah,
people,
some,
some people.
but then you're looking at what Bermuda has adopted, and I'll quote here. Bermuda has adopted a no-fault divorce system, meaning couples can divorce without providing fault or blame. A joint statement confirming the irretrievable breakdown of the marriage is sufficient to initiate a divorce proceedings. Now, this simplifies the process and can lead to a quicker finalization, potentially within 20 weeks. Now, when comparing that to what I then probed me to go and look for the Cayman Islands, where divorce is granted when the marriage is deemed to have irretrievably broken down. And this is proven by showing one or more of 5 facts, which one is adultery, unreasonable behavior, desertion, 2 years of separation with consent, or 5 years separation. And then the matrimonial clause rules govern the divorce process. I say all of that because you look at the two spectrums, and then you're seeing how you have to prove to end your union here in the Cayman Islands. It almost, for those who are just fed up, They're probably now with the proposal of 23 years, not even going to bother, because then you have to prove grounds for your divorce here in the Cayman Islands. But it almost wants you to just come open if you're done and have an adulterous relationship, because at least grounds would be proven. That was very interesting, Miss Joy, as I digressed there, to see the ease in a similar jurisdiction that is pretty much governed just like we are here. Were you aware of that
Yes,
with
that's
Bermuda?
true. No, I wasn't aware Bermuda had no fault. I
Yeah.
know the five grounds that we have in our
Mm-hmm.
divorce, but ours isn't as easy as that. Having said that, it can be quite easy because I have come across women, it's usually women in their 20s that have been married 2 and 3 times and married and divorced. So I don't think it's that
Hard.
difficult.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
got you. Okay, but can you imagine how much we would actually have for divorces here if
yeah,
that no fault comes into play? Very
yeah.
interesting. Well, have you seen an increase or decrease in the number of marriages or civil partnerships, uh, let's say of convenience then over the years, or how would you be even able to prove it?
Well, that's it. I don't believe that anybody knows for a fact that marriages of convenience are on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
The perception is that they are. I myself believe that they are. One, from a number of people we turn away,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and two, because we know now that these marriages are being investigated, which is a very good thing. However, to the best of my knowledge, nobody has ever been charged or found guilty of a marriage of convenience in the courts.
Oh.
And the number of people who have lost privileges like RERC, permanent
Mm-hmm.
residency, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, as a result of these investigations is known only to WORC. We don't know if people
Oh.
are being penalized. We don't know if these things are being proven.
Mm-hmm.
It is very hard to prove a marriage of convenience.
It is. It is. I worked in the enforcement section, and I can tell you, Miss Joy, I've investigated a number of family issues back in the day, and from then it was quite difficult to prove because people, you ever heard
Yeah,
about faking it till you make it? That's a fact. People will
yes,
remain pretty much in these relationships for the sake of the children, for a mortgage, for business. There's a
yeah,
saying, it's cheaper to keep her or him than to just do a divorce. But to be honest, you really wonder how much even remain in it nowadays because of other issues like societal issues. We see you're so close to getting your status or reaching that 3-year threshold, but the love is gone. That it's actually interesting. It is one
yeah.
of the most difficult things to prove unless somebody speaks out, and that's usually between the couple.
Yes, but that the whole immigration thing is a very big red flag. For example, if two people come in to get married and one of them, usually a foreign person, their permit has expired,
Mm-hmm.
is about to expire, their rollover time is up, they're here on a temporary permit, they're here as a visitor, right? All these things are red flags because you have to wonder if the relationship is real, right?
Perception.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you have to wonder, and that's why you have to be very careful. If you come to me and your work permit is expired, I'm sorry, I'm not marrying you. It's as
And you
simple as
reach your
that. Don't
rollover, or
come.
you reach, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't come, right?
Okay.
Don't come if you're on extension. Don't come. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to marry you,
Yeah.
right? Because I can't. I was asked recently whether I can not do a wedding. The law provides for marriage officers, ministers of religion, to refuse to do a wedding. It does not provide the same for civil registrars. But
Mm-hmm.
as a citizen and as a responsible citizen, right, I do my best to make sure that they are not marriages of convenience. Simple as that.
Right. You can only do so much and no more. But Miss Joy, we have a caller on the line. And to those who are just joining us, we're speaking to Miss Joy Basdeo, owner of Simply Weddings and marriage officiant here in the Cayman Islands. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks.
Good evening, Sabrina, and a very special good evening to Miss Joy Basdeo.
Hi, Billy. Hi.
Sabrina, you might not know. Sabrina, you might not know this. When I came to the Cayman Islands 2003, 2004, Miss Joy was the permanent secretary or chief officer, as they call them now, in charge of education, Mr. Roy Borden. And my first assignment in Cayman was to draft for her and Mr. Roy Borden the Employment Act of 2004.
Oh, wow.
I have some very fond memories of working with her then, and I will embarrass her here a little bit as well. Somebody was telling me, well, you are working with Joy Basdeo. Joy Basdeo is the most powerful woman in government today, so I always remember that. By the way, I mean, Miss Joy, if you ever are asked to write a piece of legislation for the Cayman Islands, I'll make a shameless plug. I would be happy to work with you so that we can draft a new piece of legislation for the Cayman Islands in terms of marriage, because I think with the experience that you've built personally and through family and so on, and just to reprise what we did 22 years ago, I would love to be able to do that. That's all I called for. Otherwise, I'm also learning a lot in listening to you, so I should leave you there. Thank you very much.
Billy. Thank you, Billy. It's nice to hear from you.
Thank you, caller. Yes, Miss Joy. Now we want to go into the hot topics a little bit. And I know we're coming from your perspective as intertwining the Marriage Act with what, the white paper that is out in circulation now, trying with immigration reform in broad brush. Now, with this reform and this white paper, their proposals to hoping that they will lower marriages of convenience and hold individuals accountable for fake marriages. They're hoping that that's what it will ease. Now, as someone on the front line, what are your initial reaction to these proposed changes? You feel they would actually yield an outcome, understanding that it's two separate pieces of legislation, but you can't just look at it piecemeal?
The immigration reform white paper, which was put out by the previous government, if we are talking about the same one, will make no difference to business marriages, in my opinion. It just does not go far enough. Our immigration problems with respect to marriage are deep-seated. There needs to be a complete overhaul of the marriage law and a new Marriage Act passed, which reflects modern Cayman. We have had 7 revisions to that law, and really they have done nothing. So we are trying to work a system which is unworkable with the law that we have. So I want to tell you that I prefer to call these marriages of convenience. We call them marriages of convenience in Cayman, but normally in the Caribbean, people call them business marriage, which is a marriage contracted not for romance or even for convenience, but for a price. Usually money, where one party gains advantages, whether it's immigration, whether it's economic advantages, even sexual favors. And what people seem to have lost sight of is that business marriages are illegal in this and most other countries. And if you enter into them, you are breaking the law. And the penalty under our immigration law is $10,000 and up to 1 year imprisonment.
But you got to prove it first.
Well, you have to prove it first. But when people take a chance to do that, to enter into a marriage of convenience, they are taking a big chance.
You think it's because there have not been very much cases at all that has been actually yield to convictions? Why people are saying it's a joke?
No, people are saying it's a joke. That is true. I think that the underlying reason for business marriages, I'm not talking about the foreign party.
Understood.
I'm talking about the Caymanian party, is as a result of poverty. Because Caymanians are selling their birthright and they're doing it to survive, to put to put food in their children's mouth and clothes on their backs. I have seen Caymanian women married and divorced 3 times in their 20s with a few small children to boot. And it is a sad, sad scene. They're trying to live the only way they know how. And yes, they're doing something illegal. So I'm not saying that I'm giving them right. I am not
Mm-hmm.
giving them right for doing it. I hate to see it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is happening, and I think it is happening because it is the only way that they can survive.
Mm-hmm. What would you say to someone then, for example, you gave the example of one person in their 20s marrying three times. What would you say to those persons then who would say, well, why are you marrying them?
What can you say? What will they
Who are
say?
you
They
to
might
define
say,
true love? Yeah.
they might say that's my baby daddy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure what they say. We
Mm-hmm.
just can't get in to say, is it real this time? Is it real
Mm-hmm.
the third time around?
Right. Right.
You know what you think, and and I know what I think. But
Exactly. Exactly.
how can you ask the marriage officer to police this?
Mm-hmm.
Who
Mm-hmm.
draws the line between a
Exactly.
couple's right to privacy and their
Mm-hmm.
right to marry and
Mm-hmm.
protecting our borders? Especially, and the police tell me this all the time, from undesirables such as people with a criminal record, because that
Mm-hmm.
is happening.
Right.
So the thing about it is, in my opinion, that the due diligence has to be done before the couple ever appear in front of me or any marriage officer seeking to get married.
Ah,
It has to be
interesting.
done before, and I have an idea, a
Okay.
suggestion about how that can be done.
Mm-hmm.
So every week, I get applications from foreign couples living in the Cayman Islands who want a simple legal wedding before they go home to have their big family celebration. You know why? Because Cayman is probably the easiest place in the world to get married. And our registered marriage certificate is very legal. Sorry, is
Mm-hmm.
recognized
Is
all over the world.
right.
Now,
Right.
wait, but so we're not talking about that, right? Okay. We're
Mm-hmm.
not talking about the visitor weddings. We do close
We're
to
talking
the
about our
islands.
own. Mm-hmm.
We talking about one. I just want to say a little word about visitor weddings. The island does close to 400 visitor weddings per year between cruise ship weddings and stayover weddings. I don't think they're going to be affected by any changes to the Marriage Act because these get married under a special marriage license, and that system works well, and it only
Mm-hmm.
needs small changes. But what needs to be changed soonest is when a foreign person wants to get married to a Caymanian. Now,
Ah.
the UK has something called a marriage visitor visa.
Mm-hmm.
The US has a fiance visa. Many
Mm-hmm.
countries put procedures in place to protect their nationals, but Cayman, as small as we are and as vulnerable as our population is wide open.
Mm-hmm.
So, to give one statistic, the USA does not consider business marriages a problem. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have a problem with marriages of convenience. You know why? Because with the fiance visa in place, it is anticipated that
Mm-hmm.
only 1.5 to 3% of marriages for the purpose of getting a green card are fraudulent. So they don't worry about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every one of us knows somebody that we suspect got married for convenience. 2 out of 3 times, this is something we realize after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Would we have objected had we known the marriage was taking place? But perhaps we didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the things that I want to talk about is how to object to a marriage taking place. First of all, and I'm gonna go back to talk about the visa in a
Now
while.
you go ahead. We are
First,
educating here today.
yeah, but first of all, you have to see the banns announcing that the marriage is taking place and when.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the banns have to have the date of the marriage on them. And I am suggesting that you take a picture of that as evidence. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then you need to go in person to the marriage officer who is doing the wedding. That is going to be on the banns. And you will need to give them the grounds for objection.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to put it in writing yourself. And this has to be, and if you don't feel like
Mhm.
writing it out yourself, I can give you the form and you can do the form, or the marriage
Right.
officer can give you the form and you can object. And this has to be done before the marriage takes place. You cannot attend the wedding ceremony, which is public. It has to be done with doors open,
Right.
okay? Which is public. You cannot attend the wedding ceremony and get up and say, I object. I had it a couple of weeks ago, first time since I have been
Mm.
doing weddings, 30 years.
Wow.
This is what happens in the movies. It is not real life. Okay? It is not legal to object in that way.
Mm.
So, once I receive the objection, there are certain things I have to do. But the first thing I have to do is to put a hold on any marriage plans until that complaint can be investigated. Also, the objection has to have good grounds. You cannot object because you don't happen to like the bride or the groom.
Mhm.
A groundless objection, one that has no merit, and one that, in my opinion, causes a lot of pain and expense for the couple,
Mhm.
could land you in court and could result in a fine or even imprisonment. I'll never forget several years ago now, more than probably 9, 10 years ago. I had an example of an objection, which was a serious objection done properly.
Mhm.
And someone was objecting to a marriage that was planned to take place on Valentine's Day, 14th
Mhm.
of February.
Mhm.
And when it came in, and they did everything by the law, when it came in, I had to stop. It didn't matter that the couple had a uh, big wedding plan on a special day. It didn't matter. I had to stop it, and there
Mhm.
were certain things I had to do. And then once I had done what I had to do, I had to decide on my own, was my decision, whether or not I could do that marriage, whether that couple was free in law to marry, and whether
Mhm.
it was a valid objection. Well, what happened was it was not a valid objection, or I determined that it was not a valid objection, and in the end, I did the wedding a couple of weeks later, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So that person who did not have a valid objection, although they went about it the right way, could really have been sued for the expense that
Ah.
they caused the couple, right? Fortunately or unfortunately, we have very few objections, right? And I would like to see, particularly in the case of bigamy, I
Mhm.
have had people say to me after the fact, you know that person was married before, or you know that person was married in X place before, but they will come to us and they will say never married, and they will sign and swear that they were never married, right? So bigamy is something else, and
Mhm.
I know the police have several cases of bigamy that they're following through,
Mhm.
because it is very, very difficult to find, to do the kind of due diligence in 7 days.
Mhm.
It could be 7 days. That is going to find out if somebody was married before. Our our law, which was 1964, people knew each other. They knew
Mhm.
who was divorced. There wasn't that many divorces anyway, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
you're talking about a whole new we are talking about a whole new time now, right?
Mhm. It's
And
true.
so we must have the yes, yes,
It's true. Total different time. People have different, as you rightfully said
yeah,
earlier on,
yeah,
it's different motives. And even our young people today, I'm seeing our own Caymanian young people who are trying to, let's say, even purchase their own home. They may be in a long time relationship with their girlfriend, and they're actually committing now just in order to qualify for a mortgage to combine salaries. These
yeah,
are all the things that we're saying. Well, okay, someone say, well, they're stupid. Why would you want to get married just to get a house? It's not, these are the things, as you rightfully say, that they're not entering in it for the wrong reasons, because in many cases they have been together for 5 years, 10 years, maybe 11 years. But to move on to that next stage, neither party can get property on their own because of that. And I'm quite sure this can be a total different subject, a total different show. But it goes far beyond children. And going into the sham marriage is more so attractive because of the ease in acquiring permanent residency status in our country and the free for all of our Caymanians who is blowing this whistle for immigration reform, but they're the biggest ones that are breaking the law because they're seeing they're not getting caught, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, yes. Yeah.
So we're crying for this reform, and at the end of the day, foreigners are marrying our own Caymanians. They're the ones that is actually causing the problem. I have seen cases where people did the civil partnership after the fact, in hindsight. It was easier for them to enter the civil partnership because the risk was not that great, because the Caymanian wanted to stay home. The husband or the male partner was working in construction and the female needed medical insurance.
Oh yeah, there's
Big sense out of nonsense.
All those economic reasons come into play, and
Yeah.
really, who are we to say? But
Mm-hmm.
but I think the whole matter of getting into a marriage for immigration purposes to stay in this country, right? That is something that really has to be looked at.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's a multifaceted thing. This is where you can't look at one piece of legislation in silo. And I'm so happy that we have found the relationship between the correlation between the two separate pieces of legislation that can actually impact whatever changes that is proposed in the immigration law. If the Marriage Act isn't actually addressed, as you're alluding to, and I'm eager to hear some of your recommendations as we continue this discussion, it's all for naught. It's smoking mirrors, Miss Joy. That is just clear. It is just talk, and it's not going to yield what we're expecting if the Marriage Act is not actually addressed.
Yeah. Well, I promised you that I would give some recommendations, and I will say that we have given recommendations to the minister. We are working with the present minister for marriages, and I'm very, very encouraged by his response.
Okay.
But my recommendations are: we need a fit for purpose marriage law without delay. Now I know
Good.
how long it takes to get legislation,
Yeah,
right?
I know.
But we need it without delay. We need it just as bad as we need the immigration law because they are connected. We
Right.
need a waiting period, a bans period of at least 21 days. 7 days is not
enough.
to do due diligence on the couple, right?
Right.
Especially if one of them is not Caymanian, right? We don't have to get police clearance, by the way, for marriage law.
Yeah.
So that's for marriage. We need an online bans board. We have 90 plus marriage officers. The ones that are ministers, I am assuming they put their bands up on their church door and they announce the marriages from the pulpit. That is what the law says. But the ones that are not marriage officers, that are not ministers of religion, of which there are many, or who are civil registrars, right? Where do they put the notices of marriage or the civil partnership? Where? And nobody knows where to look for them. You know where to look for mine because I have a notice board outside my office and all my bands are there for the required time, right? But we need, in this modern age, we need an online bands board where all these bands can be posted and you can see who is getting married. So if you say, oh, but I noticed she was married before or he was married before, then you can object. Right? But you cannot object if you don't know. And I think it's our civic duty when we think that a marriage of convenience is taking place to object.
Right.
So
it's similar to the cause case for the judiciary. I think that's something
that's
that you could do for the marriage of posting a bans, then, is what you're alluding to.
yes, very similar to that. We also need a marriage visa. Now, it's hard to it's hard to enforce visas or to have visas, but we have done it before. We know how to do visas, and we need to have in other words, we need to slow down the process. It's too fast. We need to slow it down so we can see who's coming into this country and what they're coming for. If they're
Mm-hmm.
coming for a legitimate marriage, well, good for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that slowing down the process is going to prevent people who are genuine about getting married from getting married. The
Mm-hmm.
process might slow down, right? But if you really want to get married, you will get married. You will make sure that you do what has to be done. Also, this is a very important thing. There is no one, no ministry, no department in charge of marriage. A bit of
Mm-hmm.
marriage is at the registry, a bit is with the marriage officers, a bit is with corporate services, a bit is with the deputy governor's office. We need a marriage bureau. We need
Mm-hmm.
someone in charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of everything to do with marriage, visas, supervision and training of marriage officers, due diligence when people are going to get married, and the issue of licenses.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, since it's close to my heart, we need to educate the public. The
Amen.
public just don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
we need to educate them about marriage and about the process of getting married and what you have to do to get married. And also what happens in the case of fraudulent marriage. So we also need enforcement.
Yes, we're going to go into accountability because, there are potential impacts here, but we're going to go into accountability and get your thoughts on that. We have a caller. Good afternoon, caller. You're live.
Good afternoon, Miss Joy. Nice seeing you again. You're looking good.
Hi, hi, Shelma.
You know who it is? I guess I don't have to
Yeah,
identify there, but enough voice.
better than the last time you saw me.
Yes, ma'am, but you're looking good. That's why I say God is good, Miss Joy. All the
Yes,
time.
that's right.
I
All the
prayed hard.
time.
I had my pastor
All
pray
the
for you, Miss
time.
Joy. I know you're a
Thank you,
good
Shelma.
person.
Thank
I know
you.
you had my, you know I went to, I want to say, I want to ask you, could you give me a divorce? But I said, you don't like the situation, but I'm not going to go there because I tell them the other day something we were talking about. I say, but I don't think you could divorce me because I'm married in Honduras. But what I wanted to say to Joy, I call Honduras a banana country, and that's where we were married in 1980. And our bonds had to go up for 21 days before we could marry.
That's right.
And the thing is, my husband he only had a certain time off of work, so he couldn't stay. I went for longer because I wanted to marry, in front of my parents and stuff, and they didn't want to come up here, right? But we had to put the bonds up for 21 days, but then there was a thing, I don't know if it changed, because 1980 is a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But you could have sent to the capital and pay for like a special license. But another thing, two people that knew him, not me, because, I found down then, and then know me, but my uncle. My uncle stood for one of the witnesses, and then another lady that was there, but they had to know him for at least 2 years to make sure that he wasn't married up here. So down there is even stricter than up here, because what I was saying, I call it a banana country. And down there was strict, because the people do, yes, commit bigamy. And then one guy used to be telling him that, pulling my leg out, we married in Honduras, he say, you could get married again, he say, if you want, and, cause their marriage, certificates don't, they do work. I tell him, I say, yeah, you want him and you to go under the jail, tell him to marry. I say, I think once you're married, don't care what country you're married in, them certificates, supposed to be valid, and you can't go and marry another person being married, because that's a big crime.
Well, I can tell you one very good thing about Honduras and marriages. Honduras has something called an eligibility certificate. And I have thought for years that we should have that. It means that if you are coming from Honduras, and many people from Honduras, I have married many people from Honduras, and many of them have brought this certificate. It is a certificate from their government that says this person is free to marry, free in law to marry. Either they're single, they're divorced, or they're a widow, but they're free in law to marry. So I have, most of the time, I have a lot less trouble with Hondurans.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, they were strict. Like I said, I don't know, because from 1980 we married, and things could change because laws change. But I can tell you, they were strict on our marriage. He couldn't marry me just like that. We had to, and then he didn't have the time, so we paid. That's why he says sometimes that he pays X, Y, and Z lempiras for me, and I tell him, I say, no, pay it for me, you pay it for that lesson, because I work more than that, and you used to have the biggest laugh off it. Because
Okay.
you wanted to marry me. I didn't want, because the list thing too. Because okay, when you go to marry out there, they ask you in Spanish, so they had to practice him. My brother and them are practicing him because they were going to say to him, Señor Belleray de Martínez, ¿queréis por esposa la señorita Shelma Dean Bush? Like Sir Belleray, would you take Shelma as your beloved? And then he had to say, sí quiero. And I was telling him, you got to say, no quiero. And they were telling him, boy, you listen to her. So she don't want to marry you. If you say no quiero, they got annul the wedding, they're not going to marry on her. Because he's saying, no, he don't want you as a wife. And we had the biggest laugh of that. And they were practicing him for days. And we were laughing at him. And my mom used to tell him, you're a hell of a Spaniard because he got a surname Martinez. That's what people think. And she said, they were telling you that they'll kill you. You're not going to know what you're saying. He said, well, you see, Miss Novia, I'm a Spaniard. He said, my grandfather was from Cuba, and I am a Caymanian. So this is what we used to be laughing. So plenty of people, when they see me with that surname Martinez, they think I got it because I'm from Honduras and he's from Cayman. I say, no, I'm not going to Spanish names. I say, all my surnames, I found it to Bush, Parchman, Halston, Henderson, and McCoy. I said, I got all Cayman surnames. And I used to tell my kids when they're applying for jobs and stuff that they pass everything and they didn't get them. I said, maybe they think on his Cuban roster, so I'll have to change on the name back to McKeever Bush. I say, which a lot of people hate, or George Bush from the U.S.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
And you're looking very good. I'm pleased to see how you progress.
Thank you so much.
Good, Shelma.
Thanks, caller.
Have a good. Okay, bye.
Likewise. Now, Miss Basdeo, again, and for those who are just joining us, if you don't recognize the face, that's Miss Joy Basdeo here. We are putting the spotlight on the Marriage Act here in the Cayman Islands and tying into the proposed of immigration reform and the white paper. Now, this white paper also talked, and I know we started before we took that call, about accountability. The white paper also talks about a high level of accountability. We can look at this accountability on the Caymanians that are knowing they're entering these things, these marriages, these unions for the wrong reasons. But just look at it from the objective now in general. What specific measures do you believe, you can probably encompass both sides, are or should be needed to effectively vet marriages to deter those entering into solely for immigration purposes? What would be your take on that?
I need you to break that down a little bit more.
What specific measures do you believe would be needed to vet these marriages to deter those entering into these unions for immigration purposes? You said you think that the bans maybe you need this marriage bureau, I think was what you said.
Yeah, I need marriage.
This department.
We need due diligence. We need
proper due diligence.
Information that is not available to us now. I have to give work and WRC and the registry and the general registry. I have to give them kudos for a new system that they're trying to put in called a system of alerts. Right.
Right.
So if somebody or if sometime it comes to work's attention that two people are getting married and there's something, the work permit is no good, the rollover time is up, they're trying to go on somebody's permanent residence. Sometimes they have that information, and if their information is good, or also to do with if the person has been in trouble with the law, they can put out an alert on the system to alert marriage officers. These people are trying to get married, and this is not right about it, right? We can also, as marriage officers, make an alert and say, okay, these two people came in. I had one not so long ago. This man came in and signed up to get married.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we put up bands and so on. 2 weeks later, he came back and he said, oh, forget about those bands. I want new bands. I'm going to get married to this person, right?
2 weeks.
Oh, well, if 2 weeks, right? So I can put out an alert to say, WORC, this person is attempting to get married. It is obviously a marriage of convenience. So all the marriage officers will know if that person comes around trying to get married, they must be
Right.
very careful. In most cases, they wouldn't do it because
Right.
normally, if there's an alert out on something on somebody, they won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
They won't do it. So that system is working. But as a marriage officer, and I have to say, the marriage officers get a lot of blame for marriages of convenience. But I
Mm-hmm.
would have to have the wisdom of Solomon to
Mm-hmm.
discern
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that I see and the
Mm-hmm.
lies that I hear. Because
Mm-hmm.
there are couples who will come to you with all manner of
Mm-hmm.
stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had somebody very, very recently call me and they said they want to get married. And I said, yes, this is what you have to get. And I said, have you been married before? She said, yes, I got married before, but that was 5 years ago. I said, well, I really can't help you. And not only
Mm-hmm.
can I not help you, but no one else in the Cayman Islands can do a legal marriage until you're divorced, right? Even
Mm-hmm.
if they got divorced 30 years ago or 40 years ago, I mean, if they got married and didn't get a divorce, right? You
Mm-hmm.
cannot get married again. I've had that happen many, many times. People who were
Mm-hmm.
in a long relationship, but there was no divorce, and therefore they couldn't get married. But
Mm-hmm.
I, the new law is going to have to be very good to stop some of the scams that are taking place, and
Mm-hmm.
and some of the loopholes that the present law has.
Mm-hmm. No, I do agree with you and in looking forward, but even with some of these proposed changes from just the immigration side, which I know you are more the marriage act side, but it can actually make sense with what you're hearing with the proposed timeline for stretching out acquisition of Caymanian status, understanding that being naturalized and acquiring the Cayman passport is under the British Nationality Act, a total separate piece of legislation that has nothing to do with the immigration law, really and truly, once you meet the requirements. And many a times, as you rightfully say, and this is why I'm supportive of your suggestion, having an independent department look at these marriages. Immigration is actually, the law is used as mediators in many times because it's after the union has been legitimized and they're applying for their residency or status or naturalization that some of these stories come to light. So
Mhm.
even with the proposed changes, effectively targeting the root causes of marriages of convenience, or what do you think that they're creating unintended negative consequences for genuine couples?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. As I said, if somebody is genuine and you want to get married to somebody, you will make sure that you find out how to do that and do it even if it takes a little bit longer than you think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think
But
it's going. I don't think so. That's why I'm recommending a visa.
mm-hmm. Okay. Because now genuine persons getting into it now, where they could acquire Caymanian status, let's say 10 years, 7 years, 9 years, they now are waiting for 20 odd years.
Yeah, I know.
23 years for, yeah,
Yeah,
it just, again, there are a lot of other things that make ease of travel based on the jurisdiction that you're coming from. If the naturalization, which is the British Nationality Act, if that piece of legislation will actually change to align with the immigration law, which that requires UK changing that, that's handled under the office of the deputy governor. So it's going to be very interesting to see what actually comes out of the other end. But I really feel not doing something is a more disservice to our people and who we are than just talking about it, to be honest. So let's just look ahead right now at getting your opinion on a piece of advice as the best way forward. You know, if you could offer one piece of advice, let's say to our people out there, and you know, this whole drafting of this white paper, but more focusing on the marriage law. And I know some of this may be repetition, but it's that important. What would it be? If you could
Well,
offer a piece of advice, you know.
my best piece of advice is to look at the RERC system, because most of the people that are in fraudulent marriages are getting married either to get RERC or to get permanent residence. They're really not too concerned about status yet. They're talking about something which is immediate. And while I'm saying this, I want to give a message to employers and employees. And that is that being married to a Caymanian does not automatically give you any right. You have to apply for and to be granted residency and employment rights. And just having a piece of paper, the registered marriage certificate, that says that is not enough. You are not allowed to legally work in this country until you have the RERC, the employment and residency certificate. And I understand it is taking either a year to 18 months for people to
For
get
the
their
RERC.
RERC. And I
But
advise people when they get married to Caymanian, get your work permit, because you cannot work if you don't get the RERC.
there was a fine line in between, and I'm no immigration right now because they're realizing the wait times have been so long, that with special, with a letter explaining that the household needs an income, once you were married to a Caymanian in the beginning, you were actually barred from getting a work permit. Because then, you know, work permits are not issued to persons who are spouse of Caymanians. But because of the long processing times now, with explanation, either from the employer, well, in this case, it would be the employer, to show proof that an application has been submitted and the household income has been impacted, yada, yada, yada. They have actually relaxed that now, and a work permit
So
can be
what?
considered.
A work permit can be
Considered while they're waiting for the processing of the RERC.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
that was my
sometimes
understanding.
some people will get married and their work permit, let's say, is still legal, is still valid, sorry, and they have not reached the end of their rollover. So they still have
That's right.
time left in their term limit. Once they became married to a Caymanian, the renewal of that work permit, because their marital status changed and they're now the spouse of a Caymanian, the renewal was actually like, no, you can't get a renewal. Because of the length of time now, discretion has been offered now. So the renewal process can be given once you prove,
And that's good. And I think that will cut down on some marriages of convenience if people realize it's not as quick as they think. Because there are people that think they can get married today, get their certificate tomorrow, and have all the rights of RERC or all the rights of a spouse of a Caymanian immediately.
Correct. Even though they may be viewed as differently in the toting poll of who would get preference in a role, in a job being hired. Yes, it does. The immigration does look favorable if you are the spouse of a Caymanian. But yes, I agree. And I'm happy for you highlighting that, because a marriage certificate and proof that you're married to someone who's Caymanian does not entitle you to go and get a job until you have either a valid work permit or RERC certificate. So thank you for highlighting that. Now, in your opinion, what role do you think the community and individuals, businesses alike, and even religious organizations, I know you dabbled a little bit into this earlier on, what role you think these organizations, for example, can play in ensuring that the integrity of marriage and it somewhat immigration in there as well is given here in the Cayman Islands? What role do you think the community, individuals, more so individuals, because it takes two people to enter these relationships, these unions. And if your gut is not, if you know within yourself that you're entering a union or a marriage for the wrong reason, Don't blame the church. Don't blame the pastor. Don't blame Miss Joy Basdeo or her business. You have to really look at yourself. Unfortunately, some of you get into these situations where you can't know better do, or promises are made.
Well, it's very difficult to say what an individual should do or should not do because people have a choice, right?
Mhm.
What I would like to see is that we don't lose sight of the importance of marriage. Marriage is the foundation of a country. And our country was built on solid marriages and family life. It's in our constitution. Our family values are in
Mhm.
our constitution, and I would not like to see that change, even in the modern world. I mean, my personal belief in marriage, and I'm going to read a quote for you, which sometimes we use in marriage, and it comes from the U.S. Supreme Court, a attorney called Anthony Kennedy. And it says, no union is more profound than marriage, for it
Mhm.
embodies the highest ideals of love, fidelity, devotion, sacrifice, and family. In
Mhm.
forming a marital union, two people become something greater than once they were. Marriage embodies a love that may endure even past death. It is an institution that we must all respect deeply. And
Wow.
that is what I want people to do. I want
Mhm.
people to respect marriage. You know, respect marriage and its importance to us as a country and as a culture, because it is part of our culture and it is
Yeah.
part of our heritage.
Yeah. You think people just are just doing it now, as you rightfully say, of survival. It looks as though that's what it's being diluted down, and the whole essence of what it is, taking those vows. When you even look at some of these reels that you see on social media platforms, it's that coveted moment of sharing and making those promises in the front of your audiences and to God, um, or whoever is out there that you actually look up to. That is being diluted. It's all
It's
about the
being,
gown and the settings
yes,
and the this and the destination, and
yes.
really and truly, really is it's something is missing. And then you're hearing in conversations, even with some of the friends, some friends that we're having, it's like maintenance is lacking after unions. Complacency sets in. And then the dust settles very quickly and reality strikes, and you realize that there's no compatibility, which leads to this. Do you or are you charged with then the responsibility of counseling before two
No,
people committing to each other?
no, no, no. Civil registrars are not required to do counseling by the law. As a matter of fact, I don't think that marriage officers are required to do counseling. Ministers of religion by the Marriage
Mm,
Act, they do counseling as a requirement of their church, right?
mhm,
And
mhm,
because we are civil registrars, we are not required to do counseling, right? People ask me all the time because, as you know, I have been married. Sam and I have been married for 53 years. People
mhm.
ask me all the time, "What is the secret?" Right? I wish I knew. I wish I could sell it.
No, you just
but
think it's probably
but
your time, like how far, because you have that conversation with somebody. I'm 51 of my age group, and what you would tolerate right now and just look beyond, you have like a different age group would be like, that's a no-go for me. I don't care. I'm done. I'm not putting
well,
up. My mom would put up with this, but I'm not going to put up with it.
I think it's because society has changed and things are disposable now. If you don't like something, you get rid of it. Do you know that the average age of a first marriage in the USA is 8 years? 8 years for a first marriage. I think 7 years for a second marriage, and third marriage is something like 3.5 years, something like that, right? So
Wow.
marriages are just not lasting as long as they were because people are looking at marriages differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of young people, yes, I agree, they're looking at the dress, they're looking at the photos, they're looking at what they're going to put on Facebook or Instagram
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, TikTok or whatever, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not looking. And I see it often with how young people in particular are reacting to each other. They don't look into each other's eyes and say their vows. And I require them, I say, look at each other because you are making a big commitment.
And
But
that's the window to
that
the
doesn't,
soul.
it doesn't always happen.
No, wow.
Yeah.
Now,
But
again, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I have done so many marriages. I don't think I can go any place and people don't see me and say, Miss Joy, you know, you married me. And I'll say to them, really? What year was that? And how are you doing now? And when they
Oh,
tell me, oh, we've been married 22 years or we've been married 10 years, I say, good, I tied the knot very tight, right?
yes, yes.
And it makes me feel good to know that marriages, not all marriages are, I mean, not all marriages are ending in divorce, or not all marriages are marriages of convenience. We have a
Mm-hmm,
lot of good couples and good,
mm-hmm,
good marriages, whether you're married to a foreigner or not.
mm-hmm.
We have a lot of good marriages, a lot of solid marriages, and that is what our country is built on. Our
Right.
families are built on, and it's important. And I don't want to see Caymanians lose sight of the importance of marriage.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking into the future, and I know some of these, your response is repetitive, but I feel it is necessary. What is your hope for the Cayman Islands marriage law? You know, looking into the future, what is your hope for the Cayman Islands marriage laws?
I want a new, I want, and we need a new marriage act. That's the most important thing, a new marriage act. But it worries me. I wish I knew, I wish I knew what the silver bullet was going to be. I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
the silver bullet is. It takes a long time. I mean, I've been in government a long time. It takes a long time for a law to get from a white paper
Yeah,
to an act, from a bill to
correct.
an act, right?
Correct.
But we have tinkered with our law 7 times. Seven
Mm-hmm.
times that law has been revised, and it is still not fit for purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're going to have to bite the bullet, right? Have public consultation, get a proper white paper which deals with marriage and how marriage impacts other laws like the
Mm-hmm.
immigration law, the
Mm-hmm.
succession law, and different other laws.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We got Michelma calling back as we wind down here on Sabrina Speaks. Good evening, Michelma. You're live.
Yeah, Miss Basdeo, I said the woes years ago, the thing say, when you're married, tell that do us part. But you don't see that no more. And I got
Well,
52. I got 52 total. It was 45, the 26th of January this year. But I tell them it is 52 for me because we were together 7 years before we married. So I tell them it's 45 clean and 7 dirty. That's how I call it. And it's with the same man. So I tell them, I say, this is, I tell people, and they say, how you start? I tell them, I say, this is one marriage that we fulfilling the Bible. Tell that do us part. Because if I never went nowhere before now, and my husband never went nowhere before now, I'm sure he not going nowhere, and I'm not going nowhere, and I don't know who can die the first. But this is one marriage till that do us part. But then I want
yes,
you to know one
that's
other
true.
little story. I know somebody, right? That the guy tell me, and he tell me this out his mouth, and I don't call no name, but this I tell me, he met a girl in Mango Tree that she been up here. She not from here. She been up here for years. She had permit maybe with every establishment in Cayman. Were kicking around. They want getting ready to send her out because she not no good. She met him in Mango Tree one night. They move in together and they start to talk. So in a week time, they get married, right? They get married. And before the week was up, she took her stuff and moved out. Wanted divorce. Wanted to leave him. And he come and asked me what he could do because he had a big government job. He was big up in government. But she thought she was going to mess him up, but that was marriage convenient because she was getting ready to get shipped back to where she was from. So she figured she could hook the old fool and she catch him drunk and whatever. But she get what the dog get. He put the spokes in her wrench. He put in and they sent her down. So she still went super. And I know plenty marriages are convenient, but like I say, when you tell people stuff, but when I used to be telling immigration stuff, how you know that? How you know? I say, because I know it. I'm like my cousin Boo. I tell them, I say, I know what I know. And if I tell, but they wouldn't go and and inquire nothing. I know one next one that were married, you convenient. They married the guy, and like you say, it was a business marriage because this person on drugs and used to drink. And they marry him to get to stay here, and they give him money so much a month or a week to buy his little weed and his little drink. And I remember immigration had catch on to it, and they were investigating it, and she might be catch the whiff. And the night before, immigration were going to the place to check now to see if they were living together. They got the old fool, and I'll never forget that because we were laughing. And they say when immigration opened, then they knock on the door. There he was with the mop, done ready with the bucket and the broom sweeping. And when they start to question him and say, you and this woman married and have one been living together? Yeah, man, this my wife. And I find they say he was sweeping and raking. And his own aunt tell us that decision, and she's still him. And then all you can hear out the mother telling me, because her daughter got papers. I say, yeah, but it was marriage, you convenient. She should need to go. Because the guy is still on drugs and still drunkard. But like I said, when you tell them things, they don't want to listen to you. So that was me. And that's why they don't get no further than they get, because people that would tell them things and help them, they don't want to listen. So I say, let me close my mouth. Why do I go into my grave with it?
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Miss Basdeo, I think that will tie into the department that you actually say, because right now, unless you make a report to immigration, which means the union is already done, correct? But if you have an independent department that exclusively looks at this, and you have an investigative group separate and apart from enforcement as we know it for CBC and for work, but an independent department for this, I think we could actually deter a lot of foolishness and actually nip a lot of these frivolous marriages in the bud.
Yeah, before the actual marriage takes place.
Or even if some slip through, right? And you know that they're honestly just holding on for that anniversary period to transition to the next phase or to apply for naturalization. And you understand, if certain things can be reported and confidentiality remains tip top, that you do not blow the cover of your informant, you have to protect them, and you get the right skill sets in that department that can investigate and put together a good case file and get these charges levied in the court, I think we would see a turnaround in how people look at marriages here in the Cayman Islands, because then they will see that we are putting a no tolerance to this behavior. And both parties, not just the foreigner, the Caymanians too, has to be held responsible.
Of course. Yes, certainly.
We got a comment here from Lisa. That is why when two people are dating, and even more in courting, must be honest with each other, because the truth will come out also. This is why when seeking marriage, you must also have an honest counselor and not just take word from anyone, because some counselors are not honest. They will see that it is not going to work, but because of the money, they will make it appear that the marriage will be good. That's a comment right there. Yeah. So we got another comment as well from Shaka Zulu. Would anyone be opposed to having said newly minted department investigate all previous marriages to try to detect possible fraudulent acquisition of Caymanian papers? Well, again, that's something, the process and how that department, it is being done, right? Well, Ms. Joy, thank you for this insightful and candid discussion. If there's any closing thoughts, anything that you'd like to wrap up that will resonate with people, like key takeaways, I invite you to do this at this time, because I felt that this is a very, very informative and insightful discussion. And I want to thank you. I'm quite sure, and I'm hoping that this will not be your last time on this platform as we continue to navigate and have insightful, informative discussions right here on the Sabrina Speaks show.
Thank you, Sabrina. It was a pleasure coming. I wanted to read you, or to read your audience, the vows that I normally use when people are getting married, right? And there are some people that tell me they don't want to say any vows, but I think it shows the importance of marriage and the seriousness of marriage. So I groom, take you bride to be my wife, and these things I promise you. I will be faithful to you and honest with you. I will respect, trust, help, and care for you. I pledge my love and devotion to you in good times, in bad times, in sickness, and in health for as long as we live. So, marriage is a serious business. Marriage is a beautiful business. You are very fortunate when you're in a good marriage, right? And I hope that I will see a lot more good marriages and that we'll be able to weed out a lot more marriages of convenience that are
Mm-hmm.
taking place in our islands.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Basdeo. We really appreciated you being here with us. And I hope that there are lots of nuggets and informative pieces, a lot of aha moments as well in this discussion today that will resonate with people. And I want to implore you to continue your efforts. Thank you for giving of service. Thank you for making your recommendations to the powers that be. And we can only continue to just make it public here as we do our part in educating and informing the public and inviting public discussions in forums such as this. But it's people like you that make a difference, and I thank you publicly.
Thank you, Sabrina. It was a
Have a good
pleasure.
all mine. See you soon. God bless.
Okay.
Now, as we close today's profound discussion, I hope that you found it that it was very informative and that there are lots of takeaways, with you as I engage with Miss Joy Basdeo. I want to implore us to reflect on the true meaning of commitment of marriage as its core and not as a transaction. It is a sacred covenant, a union built on trust, respect, and love. We're diluting those definitions when it comes to committing our lives to each other. It is the very foundation of a family, and by extension to our society. And to anyone who is listening or viewing this, who may be contemplating entering a union for reasons other than the genuineness of love and commitment, I implore you to pause. I implore you to consider the cost. I implore you to note the legal fines or the threat of deportation, possibly, but the profound human cost that it can have. You are not just deceiving a government. You are actually compromising your own integrity and potentially the integrity of a nation that has opened its doors to you. And a false foundation cannot support a lasting life. Now, the short-term consequences will cast a shadow over every aspect of your future. And to those of you who may have already walked down this path and have entered a union that has strayed from its intended purposes, it's never too late to choose a different course. A life of authenticity built on truth is a life of true freedom. But finally, to the agencies and individuals entrusted with upholding the integrity of our laws, from the Department of Immigration to our courts and beyond, the eyes of the public are also on you. And the enforcement of these laws are not just a mere bureaucratic task. It is the moral anchor of our community. And I am asking of you to do more than just follow procedures. We are asking you to be vigilant guardians of our laws, to hold every person accountable, and to ensure that the fabric of our very own society remains strong and true. For when justice falters, trust erodes, and the very foundation of our nation is and will be at risk. I want to thank you for joining me here for this edition of Sabrina Speaks this evening. It is always a pleasure being with you. And thank you as well for joining in on this vital conversation, be it if you called in or you commented here on the platform. Until tomorrow, I am Sabrina, and it has been a pleasure bringing you another episode of Sabrina Speaks. God bless and have a fabulous evening. That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.